Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again, and this time, yes, we finally reached 205 plus subscribers, and that thanks all goes to you, and I appreciate that, as now I finally begin the recording as well as the review of Akira Amano's Reborn Volume 5. Now in this chapter, or in this volume, we actually encounter some new characters, Futa being one of them. We end up going to the Kurakara, we end up meeting I think it's Haru Kurakawa. In this, some of the locations that are visited in this story are, of course, Suna's home, Suna's school. We also get a snowfield, to which some things happen in the snowfield. And last but not least, the zoo, which is towards the end of the story. So, going through my notes, as there's a lot of the things that sort of happened, I'll give my rating for both of these volumes at the end, or actually I'll give the rating for the volume at the end of this. Futa enters the picture as he's chased by a mafia mob, and he encounters Suna, and Suna learns that there is something different about Futa because he has a ranking ability. And you learn that this ranking ability is sort of like connected to something planetary within the story. And it's like a supernatural planetary force that interrupts within this universe. So Suna helps Futa out, and with that, he also ends up catching up with the character of Dino, and Dino sees Futa understands that he's like a big brother Futa understands that Dino is like a big brother to Suna, and in turn Dino sort of is like quick to accept him as like a little brother. During some of the times with Futa and Suna, you do get one time to which something happens with Futa, and of course Reborn fires the desperation bullet, and because of his ranking system, it sort of puts a change in what happens in his ranking system, and it's like really nice to see that within the story. Moving into the next couple of things that happen within this, we move into sort of like the second part of the volume, and the Valentine's Day comes up. And it's very short-lived, and it sort of like goes in its own Vongola style. And then after that, we move into the area of the snowfield, which I brought up before, and we have a bit of a Vongola style snowball fight, and this is a really nice scene. And even though I have seen the anime to this, it was really nice to reread this, knowing that I had seen the anime. But it felt so much nicer, so much different, so much in depth as to what was happening. And it starts off with two teams, to which Reborn has sort of like originally set up, and then two teams ends up being changed to three teams. So things really change throughout the series, without this run, and it's really good to see that. And it was really good seeing Suna having fun with members of the Vongola family, or his Vongola family, as things move on to the next part of this third part, we soon learn that Reborn is actually giving Yamamoto some personal baseball training lessons. And with these baseball training lessons, Reborn gives him like a special type of bat. And this particular bat, after some time of use, it finally reveals itself to be a sword. And it's really nice that, even though I have seen the anime, it's really nice to read this in the manga, to also see how much that they actually kept accurate. As we start to move into the third section of this manga, of Reborn, it begins as we encounter a group calling themselves the Dojo Busters. And these Dojo Busters sort of like go around taking out other dojos, and this ends up reaching the school where Suna's at. And of course they try to call in Suna for help, because they don't want to have to deal with these Dojo Busters. Because now they sort of see Suna as like the next piece, next big thing for their boxing dojo. And with that, Ipin comes into the picture. They misthink that Ipin is the one responsible. Then, not long after that, the real Dojo Busters come into the scene. And with the real Dojo Busters coming into the scene, all Vongola style breaks loose. And it just goes crazy. A lot of comedic filler in this. I really liked it. As we move to the finale of this part, in regards to this volume, it really takes Suna to the zoo with, of course, one of his favorite characters, or his childhood loves, and that's Kyoko. And as he starts to go to the zoo with Kyoko, he realizes that, okay, he thought he was going to enjoy this time alone, only to learn that he's starting to realize that all the other members of the Vongola family are here, because Reborn. As Reborn has sort of set this up, we've got Ryohei, who is Kyoko's brother, literally wanting to punch every animal in the zoo. Just to prove how strong he is. Eventually, things start to occur and happen within the story. And yet Ryohei gets his little punch up against the bear in the zoo. For things to sort of like complete towards the end, there is a bit of a bonus chapter, and in the bonus chapter, it deals with Ryohei, Kyoko's brother, Kyoko herself, and you start to learn that Ryohei sort of has a bit of a crush for Ipin, which is really funny. So I really enjoyed the story and the art in this, to which I gave it an 8 out of 10. And for the cover, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the next volume. Well, now it's time to move on to Volume 6, to which the beginning of Volume 6 takes place at a bit of a cherry blossom viewing, with members of the Vongola family turning up at a place, at a cherry blossom park. And it's sort of like a bit of a public event that happens like within the story. And in it, we have Suna turn up, and he's also like being told by members of the Vongola family, you're the one who's got to choose a good spot, make sure that there's no trouble. And with this, they also encounter Habari, which is really interesting in this particular thingo. And they do sort of like learn that Habari is sort of like his own rogue character and his own man. As that story finishes, we begin to be introduced to a new character in the series, known as, or in the manga, known as Longchamp Naito of the Tommaso family. To which, when he enters the picture, you learn that he is the eighth generation of the mafia of the Tommaso family that he belongs to. But some of the things that you learn about this character is that they have their own version of sort of like the desperation bullet. And this is so hilarious. If I were to give an example of what his bullet is like, it's like the victim card bullet. So every time he's shot with this victim card bullet, according to the manga, it's called the sorry bullet, and you start to hear things of like everything he's sorry about and he's apologizing. And whilst this is happening in the introduction with his character, there's sort of like a quest of like someone to become like the classroom president, and he of course ends up winning it because of this method being used, and it's really funny because he plays this victim card. Later on throughout the manga, or throughout this the first third of the manga, you get to see where even like other members of the Vongola family also get hit by this particular bullet. Suna being one, Ryo being another. So this sort of puts something into the mind of Reborn, to which we move into the second third of the story in this volume, to which Reborn sort of brings it up to Suna. We're going to have to go over to destroy the Tommaso family. Vongola style, of course. And they end up going around the place, and of course when they go to Longchamp Naito's place, and Longchamp, you get to see how Longchamp is sort of like as a mafia boss. There's lots of internal fighting amongst these mafia, and you can just see how much of a bad mafia character he is. Once Suna also gets an invite to Longchamp Naito's bedroom, you get to see how sloppy this character is, and it's, oh my goodness, if not only his mafia is a mess, but his room is a complete mess too. And Suna thought he was sloppy, and it just really breaks out. So of course Dino ends up making an appearance too. Well, not long after that, the house does eventually end up being destroyed, but Longchamp Naito, well, guess where he's bunking now? At Suna's house. Absolutely crazy, but you know what? It's a funny crazy. So time starts to move on, and of course we do get to see the Tommaso family and the Tommaso household. Some of the other places that we do get to see here is a cruise ship, a resort, and of course a church. And in it we meet another warrior with a pacifier, as Reborn's not the only one. Or actually, we meet 2 more in this. So as we start to jump towards the next part of this, Kyoko ends up winning a cruise resort trip, and in it she takes Suna along, and the Vongola family end up coming along too. As things continue to go there, things are turning out alright in the trip. Not much bad is happening until we start to finally reach the resort. So as we start to reach the resort, and yes, there is probably a little bit of craziness that happens on the ship, and it mainly involves, I think it's Epin and Lambert. They're a crazy couple, those two. But when things start to, the Vongola family turn up at the resort, Reborn has set things up that, guess who's in charge of the whole Vongola family at this particular resort. And we learned that this resort is actually called Mafia Land. Like it's a secret mafia land. And in it we actually learn that there's quite a number of members of like the mafia that like go here to this particular resort. Now in this we get the appearance of one of the villains by the name of Skull, who is also a pacifier warrior, as it's called in the manga, but it does have another name, but I'm not going to go into saying the crazy name. I'll probably butcher it. Of course, we end up encountering another pacifier warrior by the name of Colonello, and he is sort of like a very army-centered, like baby-like character, but you do actually end up learning things later on, especially if you watch the anime series in regards to these characters, that these characters were once older, but because of a certain device having to do with these pacifiers, it's a thing that sort of like de-ages them, like really seriously de-ages them. So as Skull comes to invade the island, Reborn pretty much has set up Colonello as a way as an offensive defense, whilst trying to get Suna to do other things as well. And as this is occurring, and Reborn is like doing his part to help, and with many of the mafia families on the island too, they too also decide to go up against Skull. So in a way, they start to ally with the new head of the Vongola family, being Suna Sawada. Suna Sawada not much of a loser in this. Well, it was really funny, like seeing this throughout the story. It's very short-lived, but for what it is, it's really enjoyable. Now, as we move into the end chapter, in regards to this, it does actually take place at a church, but it's not really known as to if this church is sort of like back near Suna Sawada's house or not. It's very inconspicuous about that, but in this, it's got to do with Reborn setting up a wedding with Bianchi. And Bianchi, you do learn throughout, in the anime as well as the manga, that she really, 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 really likes Reborn. No, of course, Suna's thinking, but isn't Reborn like 1 year old? No, he's not. You do learn that later. So with the wedding being set up, and Suna turns up onto the scene at the church. Dino is sort of like there playing his part and whatever else, and they learn that, oh, Reborn's disappeared. Okay. And this eventually leads to something happening with Lambo, who gets a hold of a remote control, to which things go a little bit crazy in regards to the remote control. And Bianchi sort of wakes up that this isn't actually Reborn that she's talking to. That's not Lambo. Isn't Reborn that she's talking to and having this wedding with. And then finally, Reborn makes his appearance and says, Bianchi, this is all of a test for you because of like certain reasons, and he provides a very fair answer to her. Like if she really wants him, there are things that she's going to have to come to accept, and it allows a time for her to begin to grow. Well, moving into the story rating, or story and art rating, I gave it 8 out of 10. For the cover, I really love the cover, because the cover is actually sort of like a bit of a spoiler bit, which covers like towards the end of the manga, and I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, even though what you do see, like with Bianchi with Reborn there, yes, that is shown at the end of the book. With the other stuff underneath it, you don't really see, but I really liked the cover. Well, until then, let's keep it colourful and have an awesome day.